Oh, hello. Stealing the show and a new Keybase app. All that and more, this time on Hak5!
Hi, welcome to this week's episode of Hak5. My name is Darren Kitchen.
And I'm Shannon Morris.
This week we will be hacking pineapples with bread, yes.
Oh no, I'm gonna be Wi-Fi pineappling something, and I'm gonna be bash bunning stuff, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, this week we have hacked the hosts. That's right, you got it.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's Shannon.
What's going on here? Seriously?
April Fools!
This is what they do. Go back to work.
Okay, we're fine. We're out of here.
Take your bread. I don't need that.
I wonder.
Okay, I have everything set up for my one host show. Happy April Fool's Day, by the way. We have a lot of fun here at the Hak5 studio, so Jason and Sarah thoroughly enjoy cracking me up. Since Darren has been seriously knocking it out of the park lately with all of his hardcore segments on the Bash Bunny, I wanted to tone it down, take it down a notch with some easily digestible segments involving your own privacy and security. We recently reviewed new applications on the show in the past, but it's always really, really nice whenever you can actually revisit them and introduce new concepts that they have been developing, because a lot of these applications have been in development for years and they've been doing some really cool stuff. So I have a few quick and really easy reviews lined up for the next few snubs only episodes that I hope will inspire you to keep up your own security. I think this is so important. So this week I am revisiting Keybase, which is over at keybase.io. It's been invitation only for a long time. It's a command line tool as well as a website that helps you securely encrypt communications for email. If you haven't already checked it out, keybase.io/Shannon Morse, that's my own profile where you can see my public key, and I have 2 devices assigned to this account, which I just set up, and I'm going to show you how to do that today. And I also have my Snubs Twitter account verified as well as my GitHub account. So you know that that's me whenever you look at that public key, because I've already verified it with my Twitter account and my GitHub, which again are @Snubs, and I believe my GitHub is Snubs as well. Yeah. So you can follow people on the Keybase website. You can have people follow you if they want to, and they can see any changes that you make to your own profile, and they can also send you messages, which you can easily decrypt or encrypt on the website, and you can sign those with your own public key or private key as well. So Keybase takes a very friendly consumer approach to encryption that we've seen a lot of in a lot of different PGP apps, but it also maintains a command line interface for those that want more reliability and a web interface. So if you want the command line interface, you can go for it. If you want the web interface, you can do that as well. We've shown both on the show, so take whichever one you want. Keybase uses the PGP encryption technique for public and private key pairs, and to review, you get a private key and it stays private, and then you share your public key, and people can use your public key to encrypt messages to you, and then you use your private key to decrypt the message. PGP has been around for 20 years or more for encrypting messages. It's a long time coming that somebody finally made something that's more consumer friendly, because for the longest time, PGP was just something that, people of the show used, people of Hak5 used, but not necessarily like your mom or somebody like that. So we have shared how to do simple message and file encryption using the web interface in the command line in Hak5 episodes 1715 and 1904, and both of those I'll put links to in the show notes. But Keybase now has introduced a chat system in their downloadable client, because surprise, they also have a downloadable client. It's so cool. So a quick overview from the Keybase blog says that it is faster, it has built-in encryption for chat and file sharing, it allows you to build out crypto commands in the command line, which is really cool. It verifies identity proof, and it is open source, and of course it's free, because all of Keybase's interfaces are free. So I don't necessarily want to give out like my email address or my phone number every single time that I want to contact somebody. And that's kind of what you have to do with apps like Signal and WhatsApp. So I've used a second second line or a second email for pretty much forever. And that's kind of an annoying task, to be honest, is whenever I have to, remember to log into that email or remember that I have that second Google Voice phone number that I plan to give out to people whenever I meet them at conventions and stuff like that. I go to a lot of HackerCons. I want to be able to contact people, especially if I want to interview them for the show, without the need to share my personal private phone number that my family has. So this is where Keybase, I felt, is really useful. Just like via their web interface, you can find people through their public Twitter account or their Facebook or their Reddit or GitHub or Hacker News or whatever you want, or you can also find them from their Keybase name as well, and that's just a web link, so it's really easy to find. So to install it, luckily it's very simple as well. For me, I'm running Linux, so I had to do the command line version, but of course if you have a Mac operating system or Windows, you can also just download the executable or the image file for those, and it's a very easy installation. For Linux, there are a few commands that you have to put in, so it's just using curl, and then dpackage and apt-get install Tac-F. So everything's written out, you can just copy and paste those over, it's really simple. And then to run it, you just type in run Keybase. So I'm gonna go ahead and open my terminal here and go back down to it. I ran it yesterday as well doing some testing, so you can see that I've already done it before. That is the adorable squirrel that you get. And then it immediately logs into your account. As you can see with this example right now, it's running awful slow whenever it's trying to load my profile, so they do have a few quirks to work out, but if you click on, for example, the profile picture that's supposed to be there, it's going to tell you about your profile picture. So this is supposed to be my profile. There it goes. It finally loads for me. So it does run a little bit slow, but you can see all the followers that I have and all the ones that I am following, which is not much. I should really go through there and find some more people to follow. The first time you boot it up, you are going to have to log in with your Keybase account, or you need to create a new one. Since it is still invite-only format, you will need to get an invite from somebody. I don't have any right now, but if I do, I'll put them up on my Twitter account. It gives you a special word phrase that is tied to your device the first time that you boot up the Keybase client. Make sure, and this is so important, that you copy that Keybase word phrase over to something like a notepad or a encrypted file document or wherever you want to store it, because you are only going to see that word phrase once, and you need that to verify every other device after this. So if you want to install Keybase on more than just your one laptop, which I highly suggest that you do, you need to make sure that you keep that word phrase because it will need it to verify on multiple devices. I know I said that twice, but it's really important. It is your key and your key only. It's very, very important. So now you can add people if you want to your own profile. You can add them to chat. Luckily, it's really easy to use. You can check out someone's profile to see how they've authenticated, and it's really them. So for example, I can go over to following and I'll find Darren Kitchen on here. So after it loads his profile, it shows me that he's verified via his Twitter. He really should verify his GitHub too. He's very active on there. And then it shows me his public key. And then of course I can see who he's following and his followers and stuff like that. So for example, if I wanted to add him to a chat, I would go to new chat and type in Darren. I think he's Hak5 Darren on here. Wait for it to load and then choose him and go to start a chat. Now to open up, and I can start a chat with him. Hey yo. Now luckily I had a bunch of people helping me out with this experiment last night, so I was able to get some chats going so I could show you those today. Thank you so much to everybody on Twitter for helping me out with this. I got a whole page of chats that I can go through and give examples for, which is super cool. Thank you. So for example, I'll go over to this one, pentest. He sent me some really funny duck photos because I told them not to send me any specific photos starting with a D. But anyway, you can make sure that he's actually encrypted and signed all of these images that he's uploaded by clicking on those three little dots right there next to one of the messages and showing if it's encrypted and signed by the person's device and then on what date and time. I can also click download if it's a file, which is super cool. Now you will notice that Darren on here, he hasn't downloaded the Keybase client yet. I know he hasn't because I asked him. But when he does, he will show up and he will log in and he will already see my message on here waiting for him, which is great because somebody doesn't necessarily have to already download the client for you to actually contact them. you can go ahead and contact them and they'll have this inbox ready for them whenever they're ready to download it. So luckily the chat client is pretty self-explanatory. It's very similar to other chat clients, and I'm sure you can make your way through it without me showing you how to put in emojis or something. But I wanted to give you some cool pro tips that are super useful for if you want to share code or things like that. So first off, Keybase Chat uses the same markdown method that you will find in GitHub and in Slack. So if you used either of those, you will recognize a lot of this markdown syntax. So for example, if you use the backtick and put it around a word like this, it will show up with a little highlight and in different text. It will stand out way better than it would if it was just normal code. So in this example, printf sent me over this really cute little ASCII art of a ducky. And of course, my first reaction was like, oh, is that a code block? And pretty much it is. It's code and syntax highlighting. So pretty cool that you can actually add that in. Another really neat feature that you can do with this, if you go over to your terminal, you can send messages from the command line. So an example would be, I can send a message over to, I'll send one to Midnight Slacker over here. So I'm going to type in echo, hey dude, and then pipe that over to Keybase Chat, send, let's make sure I spell it right, Midnight Slacker. So that's going to open up a private conversation with Midnight Slacker, and then it will show up that it's sent him a message. So he's now going to show up at the top of my message chat system up here, and it'll show my new message in the actual client. So you can totally just work within the CLI if you want to. There's also a whole bunch of great examples of what you can do in the command line on their blog. Let me scroll down and show you those. So mine was this echo and piping feature, but you can also use Keybase Chat send Chris beer Saturday, for example, or you can send to multiple people at once by just putting a little comma in between them. So pretty awesome that you can add those things in. Also, the last thing I wanted to mention too is JSON is supported, so you can write bots that will work in the chat system. So the Keybase Chat has this help API function doc, so you can go over to Keybase Chat Help API, and you can read up on a bunch of examples of little JSON arguments that you can include so that you can write like math functions and stuff like that. I don't use a lot of things like that, so I probably won't use that, but I will definitely be using the coding blocks because that's something that we use a lot here in the Hak5 warehouse. Of course, with any other chat function, you can also mute people. You can block them via a little eye icon at the top corner, and the little folder that you can see up in the top corner as well, that is for sharing documents too. So this opens up a little private folder between like me and Midnight Slacker, for example. I can put documents in here if I wanted to, and then Midnight Slacker would also have access to those documents as well. So in a way, it's kind of like thinking of it as a Dropbox, but encrypted just between the two people. And there's no access to it outside of those devices. Also, you can post public messages via the command line interface. So for that, you can just go over and type Keybase Chat send tac public, and then whatever your screen name is. So mine is Shannon Morse. Hit enter, and then enter in whatever your message content is. So I will say Hak5 is awesome. Hit enter, and then if I want to go back, I can also read these messages with Keybase Chat read tac public Shannon Morse. Hit enter, and it's going to show you any of my public messages that I've sent. So you'll notice the first one, 19 hours ago, this is my public message. The second one, 14 seconds ago, Hak5 is awesome. You'll also notice that in this case, I put quotes, and the quotes do show up. So you don't necessarily have to put those. In the first one, I did not include quotes, and of course, quotes don't show up. So you don't have to necessarily put quotes if you don't have to. Keybase is going to be announcing a phone app soon, which is super exciting, and the desktop client currently supports up to 4,000 character texts and file attachments as well. So when it comes to privacy, of course, because I know you're all questioning that, all communications are encrypted end-to-end with this Keybase client, but they're not using forward secrecy. And for me, I was like, why is that? They read up on the entire thing, they explain it all on their blog, but coming soon, they're gonna have this thing called exploding messages that will have forward secrecy as an add-on, so your history of chats will survive unless you turn on exploding messages. This is to make it more consumer customer friendly again. The Keybase Chat doesn't use PGP keys. Remember that weird word phrase when you first started up the client? It is your paper key, as they call it. It's tied to the Keybase device. Keybase is trying to make encryption really friendly for everybody, so you can read more about what they're doing over on their blog. It's keybase.io/blog, and they have this whole thing about their new key model that they're going for. But if you are a nerd like me, you can still find somebody via their public PGP key as well. You can just type it into the command line. So for example, I could type in Keybase Chat send, and then whatever the PGP key is, I don't know, whatever it looks like, and then you can type in your message. So in my case, I'll say, hey, just like that. That's all you have to type, and then they would get that message via their public PGP key. Now, if you do want to tie more than one computer to your account, I mentioned this before, you will need that weird word phrase called a paper key. The first 2 words are public, the rest of them are part of your private key, so don't share it with anybody. Your second computer will need to authenticate with the first computer and vice versa. So that way, no matter what, you have that authentication going between those different devices, even though they're all tied to the same account. You will also be able to access the same account on both ones, and if one gets stolen, you can go under devices and revoke it. So for example, on mine, I currently have 2 devices set up. I think it's just my computer. No, I just have 1 device set up right now. That's it. So I need to add other devices, but if anything happened, I could revoke this device. I'm not going to do that though, because I want to keep that word phrase for a second device so I can authenticate it, because that's smart. But if you do have Keybase only installed on one computer and that one gets stolen, you're not going to be able to access your data, so keep that in mind. All right, I think that's about it with the Keybase client, but of course, if you guys have questions, you can leave them below, or you can find me on the Keybase chat to ask anything that you want. Of course, the Keybase, the people that run Keybase, they're also really cool and really excited to chat with people over the client too. For example, I was talking to Chris earlier today. I think that's awesome, so thank you so much for chatting with me. Keybase.io/getting-started is where you can go to download it. This wasn't sponsored by them or anything. I just think it's really cool, and I felt like it needed an update on Hak5 because they've done so many updates themselves. So, and I'll definitely be reviewing the iPhone app and iOS or Android app whenever they come out with those too. So I will be right back after a quick break. If you got a great idea, bring it onto the internets the way Darren and I do using domain.com. With an awesome domain discovery system and a quick and easy checkout process, you will have your perfect website up and running in minutes. The guys over at domain.com, they're also huge fans of Hak5, and they want to hook you up with a coupon code HAK5 for 20% off. And also make sure to tweet them, send it over to @domain.com, let them know how much you appreciate them and you love them for supporting Hak5 for all these years. You don't have to say that exact quote, by the way, but just let them know that you really appreciate them for supporting us, because they are one of the reasons that we're able to bring you fun content every single week. Remember, when you think domain names, think domain.com. That about wraps up this episode of Hak5, but of course you can see everything that Darren is doing over in Indonesia over at hackercrosstheplanet.com, and whenever he posts meetups, you will find those over on that website as well. We will also be going down to Australia in May. That's going to be super fun. That is going to be for AusCert, which is on the Gold Coast in Australia, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you guys have recommendations for what to do as well, I think I'm going to have a couple of days of downtime, so I definitely want to get out and do some photography and stuff, because that's one of my hobbies. So let me know if there's anything super cool to see down on the Gold Coast. And of course, if you have questions, concerns, comments, send them down below. Make sure to subscribe and hit up feedback@hak5.org. That is our email where we will read all the messages that you have to send us about the show. And lastly, thank you so much for everybody who supports us through the Hack Shop. It's hakshop.com. That's where you can get the Bash Bunny, the Wi-Fi pineapple, the USB rubber ducky, and the land turtle, as well as a whole bunch of really cool swag. So hakshop.com and hak5.org if you want to check out all of our other shows. I'm doing 4 shows a week right now, so I'm pretty busy, but thank you so much for everybody for watching and supporting us for so long. We really appreciate it, and I will see you next time. Until then, I'm Shannon Morse, and for Darren Kitchen in Indonesia, trust your technolust.
Hi, welcome to this episode of Hak5. My name is Darren Kitchen.
And I'm Shannon Morse. Am I doing a... Oh, shit. Stealing the show and a new Keybase app, all that and more this time on Hak5. I might bash Bunny. I might bash something. Wait, I gotta fix my hair. It's up.
Blurry.
Stealing the show and a new Keybase app, all that and more this time. I can't. I cannot be a host. That's not what I was born to do. No, I am completely sober. Sober. Oh, hello, stealing the show. Stop. You're me up.
I'm sorry, it looks so good. yes. Sorry, I mime.
Okay, you promise you're not gonna laugh?
Yeah. No.
Darren
Okay,
Kitchen,
one more.
stop.
Yes, ma'am. Today we will be hacking bread with pineapples.